BaT Nerds is your daily YouTube card game show where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. McGurd, it's a brand new episode of the BaT Nerds. That rhymed, and I did it on purpose this time. Welcome, everyone, to a brand new live edition of the BaT Nerds. It's just Michael Deeb and I, so Nerd Herd out there needs to get into the chat room here and join us to make it more interesting, because who wants to do a show with just, like we need something interesting, which is why we lean on you guys, the herd out there, and we are excited for you guys to get on board with us. I also have the Instagram thing going here. I'm going live for just the first couple of minutes to let people know on the Instagram machine that we are actually live on YouTube, where you can hear both Michael Deeb and myself. So go on over there to YouTube and be part of the show. Michael Deeb, how you doing? What's happening there in the new studio in San Francisco?
Oh God, I'm so out of breath, man. It's when Esther works, it's like it's the baby marathon, and I barely made it across the starting line. But yeah, without divulging secrets, we push the desk a little further forward to create a little more depth in the studio. But I mean, I don't have a lot to work with here. It's not like your fancy container store down there. But anyway, yeah, it's coming along piece by piece, brick by brick, show by show. But I'm happy to be here. I'm not like freezing to death in the basement, and I've got a door I can close. I mean, this is really, it's my sanctuary. Although I have these beautiful ambient lights, and my baby came in and I said, "Don't touch that." And she just looked at me, and I was like, I shouldn't have said that. And she just smacked them and knocked them all. I had them all lined up perfect, and she just knocked them all over and ran across the room and kicked the other one too. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one little piece at a time. You've got dogs. You understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of those people that I don't have kids, and there's always that guy or that woman that also doesn't have kids, but they have dogs, and they act like it's the same thing. It's not. I know it. I've got two cute little dogs. I don't have to put them through college. They don't even speak English. If I point at something and say, "Don't touch that," they might go chew it up or something like that, but they don't know what the hell's going on. They're just dogs. So yeah, I know it's not the same thing. So, all right. Well, hey, as people are joining the show here, again, we're waiting for people to get into the comment section since we've got a live show here. Looks like Buddha's hanging out. He's over here.
Hey, Buddha.
Buddha's on the Instagram machine, but I'm not seeing him in the comments just yet. That's assuming this show is live, which that is a big assumption.
It is. I got the little red eye. Which means it's live.
Which means it's actually happening. All right. Well, then, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone about God and Porsche of Las Vegas?
Oh, our favorite. So John and I met working at God 6-7 years ago now. We were just so less gray at that time. But God and Porsche, what brought me to Vegas was God and Porsche being the very first Porsche Classic partnership in North America. Out of 190 Porsche stores, Godin is one of a dozen, and they were the very first one, and almost exclusively so for the first year in like 2016, as a classic partner, meaning they have the technicians, they've got the parts experts, and they've got the sales representatives that are familiar with just about every classic Porsche that's ever been made. They can source parts from the Originale catalog. They can service your car. If they put a classic part, a real Porsche Classic boxed part into your car, it's warranted for 2 years. At least that was true when I worked there. And of course, Steve Thiel, who runs the classic department, can buy and sell classic Porsches at will. So he may have a classic that you're looking for, or he might be interested in your classic if you're looking to part with it. Call our friends at God and Porsche in Las Vegas and tell them that the BaT Nerds sent you.
Yes, and I know a lot of people have. Hans just signed up here. Hans, hello, Hans. How you doing? Looks like Randy's hanging out already. Anthony is here. I think Hans bought some parts from Godden Classic the other day, and so that's cool. Just make sure that when you call those guys that you tell them you heard about it. Heard about them through Bid Nerds. Yeah, absolutely. Because that helps them support our show. Another big fan of ours, and we're a fan of them, is Our Smiths up in Idaho. Anthony, who is hanging out in the chat. You know, he is all about fine Swiss repair, my friends. If you have a Rolex, a Patek Philippe, I don't know, an AP, Panerai, a Breitling, any of those fine Swiss timepieces, and it needs service, send your watch to Our Smiths up in Idaho, and they will get you hooked up with the best Swiss service there is anywhere in the world. I can comfortably say that. So yeah, check out Our Smiths, and they also have a whole bunch of watches available all the time too. So check in with Anthony if you're looking for something specific.
Do they sell used watches or only new watches?
No, he always has a selection of both new and used. He's not a Rolex dealer. They have their own brand that they're going to be launching here very shortly. I'm excited about that, and we'll talk about that when that actually happens. People are always going to him. You know, you know how watches are. It's just like cars. People are trading them all the time. And so he's the guy. Like if we were going to do a Watch Nerds show, it would be with Anthony. So, but there it is. Check out Our Smiths. They support the nerds, and we like to support them as well. Look, Mike Buddha is on an airplane. He's watching from an airplane, I think, right?
Oh, Mile High Club, Buddha. Way to go. Check that off your list.
Watching the nerds from the shitter on an airplane. All right. We've got Bob is hanging out here. Another Idaho guy. Bob, are you hanging out with Randy and Anthony? Is that what's going on? You guys really do need to. I think at Our Smiths, he's got to have like a cool lounge in there or something like that. They should just pop the show up on the big screen and hang out there and have a watch party there. That's what I would do.
I picture a corner of Our Smiths with like a Chesterfield and a Tiffany lamp and some Persian throw or like a tiger with the head still on it, like in front, and they're just like laying around smoking cigars, checking out their watches and watching the Bid Nerds with no sound because they don't really want to listen to us.
That's true. Good point.
And that's on, and it's on the screen. Yeah, and the lights are dim, way down low. Yeah, that's how I picture it, but maybe it's different.
Well, they're not watching figure skating or soccer or anything like that.
Curling.
Because it's a bunch of dudes hanging out, so they're going to watch Bid Nerds or football or something like that. All right, let's get to the show. What we do on the show is we make predictions about the most interesting cars from all the automotive auction sites like Bring Your Trailer, Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, and more. And we make those predictions. We write them down on a spreadsheet, and we hold ourselves accountable. We actually come back on the next show and reconcile our poor job at making predictions with what actually happens. And I always say that we do a bad job, but somebody got a Yahtzee this week, dag nabbit, and I know he's going to be gloating about it here in a minute. So let's just get it over with. But we're going to start with a car that we kind of skipped over last week. We forgot that we had made a prediction on it because it was kind of last minute. And we're going to talk about that Stratos. Can we, you want to talk about that one real quick?
This was an interesting car for Cars and Bids, and I still not positive that I agree this car was on the right platform. And what we're talking about is this incredible replica called JP, the Lister Bell. And check this thing out. So Lister Bell is making a handful of these things, STR Lancia Stratos replicas. So this is a 2017 kit car that can be street legal, at least in some of the states. This car was located in Troy, Michigan. It was showing 73,000 miles on the odometer, but they were also saying that they sourced the odometer from a Fiat 124. So the 73 miles shown were not the 73 miles on the chassis of the car. The chassis of the car had like 1,000 miles. And then allegedly, a little bit convoluted here, they had put a brand new crate Alfa Romeo V6, a Busso V6 3-liter under the hood of this car prior to selling it. So kind of a hodgepodge. It looks like it might have been one of their early prototype because so many things were pieced together for this particular car. But apparently you can go to Lister Bell and order an STR Lancia Stratos with a choice of engines ranging from Ferrari to Fiat to Alfa Romeo, and have one made for you. Now, this particular car is ready to go. It's already broken in. It's got a new crate motor on it. It's got the beautiful Stratos Group 4 wheels, replicas that are made out of aluminum and magnesium, I think. I know Alphaholics out of England sells these wheels. They're beautiful on the car, especially the rears, JP. Look at that deep dish on what they call coffin spoke wheels that were unique to the Stratos when the cars were racing. These were on the racing car, not the Stradales. But anyway, this car seems to have some really cool go-fast parts. If it's street legal where you live, you want one. I know I do. And we all liked the car, but we wondered how well it would do. With that in mind, I started the bidding at $85,000, and my bid was a reflection of the platform. I didn't think the car would do well on the platform, but I believed that this was a $200,000 to $250,000 car to build, and it would be probably $300,000 to get one today, just guessing. And I thought this car is probably worth closer to $150,000, but I didn't think it would get that here. JP came in at $99,999. Wade was with us, and he said $91,000, splitting the difference between John and I. And then Mental, ever the bullish one, actually ever the bearish one, was bullish on this car and said $130,000. Without further ado, our car sold on the platform. 48 bids to get to $140,000 where it sold. This was a reserve auction, and John, I'm going to tell you honestly, I didn't think this car stood a chance. So I am eating crow before we get to any Yahtzees. I'm going to have a whole plate of barbecued crow because I screwed this one up. $140,000 for this car, I think, is a good deal, but probably all the money. I don't know that anybody knows that these replicas exist. I imagine this is one of the first handful they made, just judging by the copy and using context clues. But I like the way it looks, and that Busso 3-liter could easily be good for 210. If you got no smog on it, you could probably get 240, 250 horsepower without even having to open it up. That's a great motor for a car that I'm guessing, John, just looking at it, would you think that car weighs even 2,000 pounds? I mean, this is like one of your 356s with a V6 in the back. You know what I mean? Like, but with an infinitely different generation body, and it's obviously not a Volkswagen, but man, that's a cool car. And even at $140,000, that's a rip. Again, if you want one, you're going down and ordering yours, and I'm sure the conversation starts at $250,000. You choose a Ferrari motor, you're looking at $350,000, $400,000. So amazing value. Mental was almost right on the money. John and I and Wade were left in the wake. Again, I don't agree that this was the right platform, and I'm wrong. What do you think? Did you think at $100,000 that this would be the right platform?
Yeah, I actually do think the platform was right. I mean, it's, this is a Doug DeMuro weird car, right? I mean, it's going to get a lot of extra eyeballs. I think it's something like this might get a little diluted on BAT. It obviously brought a lot of money, a lot more money than any of us guessed other than Mental. In the nerd herd, I think Anthony was the closest. He was at 92. So he was under me. So most of us didn't think it would break 100 because, I mean, 100 for a replica anything makes you start to kind of scratch your head. But I mean, I don't think it's that absurd when a replica is done right. I think a lot of times people see the word replica and that freaks them out. You think of that Fiero that has a Countach body kit on it, or a 356 that's actually a Volkswagen with a 1300, and it's all falling apart off the Volkswagen frame. This is not that. This is more like one of those custom Beck 904 tube frame builds with a 911 engine.
Totally. That's a great comp. That's a great comp. Absolutely. So, and you can pick your motor for that. You imagine going like our friend David Keynes, who put a 993 drivetrain in that. Yeah. And he's been driving that car for months. He's an accomplished driver. And the car is totally dialed in, and yet he barely gooses the throttle on that thing because he's still coming to grips with the power to weight ratio. And I feel like you could do something very similar here.
Which is GT3 RS power to weight ratio, by the way, because Tony's 900, Tony at 900 series, he has his 904 with a 3.2, and that thing is just terrifying to drive. It's like this is way too much power for this little thing. And unlike a GT3 that might have some crash resistance, some airbags, and some safety items, you don't want these replicas in an accident. Oof, yikes! But anyways, what do you guys think of the results of this crazy, amazing Stratos replica? Was this well bought, or did someone just way overpay and should have just got a Fiero and put a body kit on it? Let us know in the comments below. And what else did we make? Let's move back to the last episode, which was just a few days ago. We talked about that. Let's see, the BMW. Let's get to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Great call. 2005 BMW M3. This is an E46. And JP, I told you, like, I competition packages, CSLs, even just the ones with the 19s. I make mine like this. I would go carbon black instead of black, but the aluminum inlay, manual transmission, and just the basic bitch 18s. I think this is a gorgeous car. I love the way the almost sort of ball polished wheels and the chrome kidneys, and that's like the only two accents of silver that are on this like beautiful black car. Fantastic drivetrain. The S54 is a gem. This car only had 52,000 miles. Again, we're talking about cars and bids here, JP. 52,000 miles on the East Coast, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And then I walked out on the plank. I started the bidding at $41,000. John, you were $6,000 under me. That's 20%, at 35,000 bucks. Sahan, who joined us from his house in Oakland, came in between us at $37,000, but the herd was all between you and Sahan. Nobody was anywhere near me, and nobody else guessed $40,000. Our car sold for $41,000, meaning I got a Yahtzee. I accidentally got that one right, and it took 34 bids to get there. Again, I think if this were a weirder color, it would have brought 45. But this generation of M3s, especially ones that aren't like tuned and modded and look to be in reasonably good condition, are pretty strong in the secondary market. E46s, I'm not saying they're on the come up or they're on the rise, but I just feel like it's a pretty safe, what you and I would call a solid place to put your money. Sure, the tide could recess out from underneath these, but I don't see the tide regressing 25-30% if you go drop $40,000 on one of these. I think, you buy it for 40, you put 6,000 miles on it in a couple of years and sell it for $37,000. I would take that all day long. $2,000 a year to drive a beautiful car like that. Who wouldn't? I mean, come on. I think this is a decent collector car. I don't think they're on the come up, but I don't think they're soft like a lot of other cars are. A lot of other BMWs are soft, and I think this is a bright spot for the Propeller brand, So what do you think, John? Do you agree with that take, or do you have a different reason for this result, again, on cars and bids, not BAT?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those cars that I think would have done better if it were on BAT. Cars and bids buyers definitely are looking for stuff like this, but I think this is just an incredible value. $41,000. Yes, I agree. You can buy this thing, and I think I said it before the break too, or when we were making the predictions. This is the car you want to be stuck with. If you're going to be stuck with something, if there is some kind of crash, this is the car that you can drive to the end of time. And I think that's really, whoever buys this thing, hopefully that's what they were thinking. They're like, oh, you know what? I want that enthusiast car that I can have for 10 goddamn years, because this car will give you joy for that long. I mean, you're going to get tired of it before it'll wear out. This is just such a great car, and it's always going to be a performer. It's always going to feel like it's, it's going to be able to hang with just about anything. You roll out there with any supercars, and if you're a little bit better driver, you're going to be able to hang out with all of them. I love this car. It's a great looking car. It's aging well. And it's nice to see one that's still in great condition. What do you guys think of the results of this E46? Yeah, hop in. All right.
John, who's posting these numbers? Who is that? Anthony?
That's Randy B is taking
Randy.
Yeah.
So a couple of the people bid, like Anthony was at 32, and Ross was at just 30,000, and Michael, I assume, is Buddha, that 31.5, and David at 35. So I mean, there were a handful of the herd who submitted their bids were in the low 30s. So I wonder if they're as surprised as the rest of you guys were. I'm the only one that wasn't. I guessed it right. So,
all right, let us know in the comments below what you think of the results of this E46 M3, and let's move on to the next car we made a prediction about. I know Michael wanted to hang out on that car for a long time because he got a
long time.
He got
We really should do an entire show dedicated to my
whole
Yahtzee
darn episode. Let's look at the one. Let's look at this 911, this 991. I think this is a good market. This particular car really kind of shows what's going on in the market here. What do you think of this one, Michael Deeb? What was this?
All right, the 2012 991.1 base Carrera Coupe, 7-speed, marketed as a sunroof delete car. This car has just 43,000 miles, so it's been driven a little bit. It's in Valparaiso, Indiana, and it's on PCAR Market, John. So this is a no-nonsense first year of the 991.1. You were talking about how this car shared the showroom with what were still being sold as some leftover 997.2, some special editions that were still on the showroom floor. And if you take a close inspection of the cockpit of this car, the steering wheel is a 997 steering wheel. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I mean, they held
you
over
recognize that too?
But that's definitely a Porsche thing. I mean, Porsche's been doing that for a while. The steering wheel is like the last thing they update, and then that kind of carries over, and that's always the way. That's
they're just dumping parts that they produced for the car. They're like, okay, we've got 1,000 steering wheels. We're putting them into the first 400 cars like that with it. But anyway, nice car, no nonsense, which is nice for a change on PCAR Market. And like I said, we've been kind of feeling some of these. 991.1 represents the last of the normally aspirated 911s. And so they also represent probably one of the best bang for the buck values. Although you don't personally like the performance on this car, you think that this car doesn't really hold up. At 345 horsepower, we juxtapose this to a special edition on the 996, the 40th anniversary, which had this almost the same specification. In fact, the 996 probably has more torque because it's got a bigger motor, although it doesn't have DFI. It's a 3.6, where this is just a 3.4, but they both have the same 345 horsepower. So with that long-winded introduction, I jumped in at 55 grand. JP, you were at 65,000, taking the over. Sahan came in at $60,000. And our car, lo and behold, welcome Sahan to the show, sold for $60,991 on 19 bids. So, John, that result is literally right between the two of us, a little bit closer to you. Any surprises there? I feel like that's kind of all the money, and I feel like that's a strong result for PCAR Market. That's one they could sort of hang their hat on. I think they did a good job with that. Would you counter any of that, or do you agree?
No, I mean, I think everyone was kind of in that same ballpark. The Nerd Herd was, I mean, I don't think anyone was over. It doesn't look like it. Sahan was, yeah. So, oh wait, did Hans get a Yahtzee? Man, he missed it by $991. That's why you always do the 991 thing in there, right? No, this car.
Same with Sahan.
Yeah, I think the car is fantastic. It's a lot like that E46 that we just talked about before this one, in the sense that it's just a generally good car. It's not the best car, and there are certainly other cars for the money that I would probably rather buy, but at the same time, I don't know, man. For 60 grand and you want a modern sports car, this is a 911. It's underpowered for a 911, sure, but this one does have Sport and Sport Plus, so it's going to feel a little bit more poop. The 991, as big as a car as it is, it still feels light and nimble once you're actually flicking it into corners and stuff. They're incredibly well planted. They're just fantastic cars all around. A few mods would really improve this car. And this is and because it has nice low miles, it's a car that you can drive for a very, very long time and still look contemporary. This car looks like a 992 to most people. The average Joe walking down the street, if this car were parked in a parking lot, they would think it was the latest 911. They just brand spanking new. And as we talked about before the break, the the 911 is enjoying the highest resale value of any other car. That used to always be like a Honda or something like that, a Honda Accord. But nowadays, it's a Porsche at 911. Who'd have thought? So yeah, I think this car is a good value. It is more of a used car than most of the cars that we talk about, but it's a pretty damn nice used car. And I don't think I think whoever buys it is probably going to be just fine on the depreciation curve as long as they ride it out. If someone tries to buy this and immediately flip it, that ain't going to happen. But, look, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the economy. We talk about that all the time. Now the feds are talking about they're going to lower the interest rates like 6 times next year. They're probably going to be trying to juke the economy here going into an election season. That wouldn't surprise me. But is that going to cause more? Okay, it's time for the drinking game, inflation, which it will. So who the hell knows? I think we're back to a world where regular cars, or at least modern cars, are going to go back to normal depreciation curves, which is what we would have anticipated. We just had this weird blip for a couple of years where modern enthusiast cars appreciated, and even regular Joe Blow cars were appreciating for a while. But that's over. And that's just so. Looking at a modern 911 like this, I mean, it's 10 years old, but it's still basically a modern car. I think we need to just be ready for cars to go down in value like they always used to. But yeah, I think Hans says he likes his 997S for the money.
Nice car.
Which is true though, right? I mean, I think I said that before. I would way rather have a 997, absolutely, over a 991. If it were all things equal, a base 997 with all these options, hell yeah. As long as it has 3 pedals, I'm good. What do you guys think of the results of this 991? Let us know in the comments below. The Nerd Herd thinks it's a lot of car for the money. And looks like they're patting each other on the back for some good bids out there. Let's move on to the results of the next car we made a prediction on. This is the merry-go-round 911. Let's speaking of 911s.
The holiday fruitcake of the Nerd Herd is this 1969 Porsche 911T Coupe RSR build with a 3.8 liter 964 motor. We have covered this car the first time it was on BaT, where it sold for $140,000 but was never paid for. A couple weeks later, the car showed up on PCAR Market, where it failed to sell at $122,000, and then Chef brought it to our attention for the third time because it's back on BaT before the end of the year, running as an alumni and no reserve. This car shows up again by the seller Waub out of Thousand Oaks, California. Super nice car, definitely some wear and tear on it, definitely built to be like a track car. Certainly with these tall wheels. We've covered it 100 times before. I'm not going to get into it. But JP, can you smell that in the air? I'm smelling a Yahtzee. I said $120,000 because I think the car is burnt. I know it's a lot of value for the money, but I don't see how it being its own comp twice in the last 2 months is going to allow it to go over the numbers it failed to sell at prior, which is why I parked my bid right under the last achieved number it got, which was 122 on PCAR Market. So I said 120. JP, you were more optimistic at 129,911, and Sahand, who joined us, gave us $118,000, 118,911. And so our car, and you and I were talking, we were watching this as it was closing, I think with Chris Carbine. It went to $120,000, and the whole clock ran out. Like the last 2 seconds, it went to 121, where it sold $121,000 on 50 bids. So people were watching it, John. It got tons of action, but it did not bring to $1,000 what it brought on PCAR Market just a month ago. And I missed a Yahtzee by $1,000. Man, I was pissed about that. Anyway, what do you think of that result?
Well, the big news about the result of this isn't so much the number. I mean, we've talked about the car. The car is definitely rough. I was hanging out actually at God and Porsche. I was hanging out with Steve and Mikey at the dealership when this one was closing. And, Steve pulled it up and he starts getting in there. He has his mic, he's got his little, he's looking at every little detail, and he's like picking all these things apart. He's finding rust. He's finding all this kind of stuff. So the car, yes, it would still cost a ton of money to build that car and to replicate something like that, and it still represents a ton of fun for the dough. But you're right, the car was burnt because it kept trading. It just kept going back and forth, and you just can't do that. I mean, I think if they were going to try to really do that, they should have gotten different pictures and made it look different and tried something else. But again, the big story on this car was how long it took to get to the number that it got to at the end of the auction, because the night before this car was at $60-something thousand. A half an hour before this thing closed, it still hadn't broken 70. It was down to the last 10 minutes, and this car got like 71. So the people who were selling this with a no reserve had to have been shitting themselves, because that car got no bids. And I know you were saying that the day before, but I didn't really care the day before. But in the last 10 minutes, holy crap. So the number doubled in the last hour. Doubled in the last hour. That's the
last 10 minutes.
I mean, really, yeah. And so that last 10 minutes actually wound up taking another 45 minutes. It took a long time for this auction to close because it was $1,000 at a time. $1,000, 2 minutes. Sit, down to 5 seconds. Another $1,000. Sit. So that guy, that dealership, they must have just like, oh my God, what are they going to do? I mean, just like creeping. Is it going to get anywhere near that? So yeah, it was a fun one to watch because of that. And that is the drama that we see on some of these auctions, man. I swear to God, it's
I know for a fact
your hair gray.
Even if the seller and the owner, the consignor, wanted to sell this at no reserve, I promise you, BAT, the only reason they accepted the car back on the platform was to run it at no reserve. That would have been contingent. And so that was one of my first questions to you when I introduced the car. I said, do you think at 60 grand and this thing's closing tomorrow, no reserve, this guy's sweating? And then Chef reached out to you and I and sent us the listing in a text, and he said, this guy's got to have a really clenched butt cheek right now. And I was like, oh my God. Because it was the last, like you were showing me, it was the last couple of minutes, and it still hadn't even gotten to 70 grand. Yeah. But then all the money came in. Obviously, everybody was waiting until the last minute to try and steal it. And I still, again, for what it would cost to go build a new one of these at 120 grand, it's stolen. Even if there's rust on the car, you could repair what's there way cheaper than you go out and buy another one. I think that still represents a hell of a value. And hopefully this time the buyer will pay for the car. We won't have to see it again for a couple of years.
Could you imagine? I mean, so there is that possibility. I mean, think about that for a second, you guys. This car, okay, it was sold. So now the dealership has to actually execute that sale. And we don't know what's going on. BAT does not facilitate the sale, right? BAT is a dating service. All these platforms are basically a dating service with the exception of Haggerty, which my partner works for, right? So all they do is they put the two together and say, good luck. And clearly the last couple times it didn't work out. And so that's why we saw the car again. It's going to be look, it is not off the table that, we still don't know why the first buyer didn't finish, why they didn't buy the car. Maybe they showed up and looked at it and was like, whoa, something's off here. Maybe they discovered something, and maybe there's something none of us know about this car. I'm not saying that that's the case, but we don't know. And it'll be interesting to see if we see this car come up again, for sale sometime soon. But
if somebody fails to buy this car, I promise you, Wob down at Thousand Oaks is not going to be the one that's going to sell it again. And I don't think BAT will take the car back.
No, there's no way.
With the paperwork still being in the same seller's name, I don't think BAT will take this car again. This car is done for a while. Even if the guy takes it home, he doesn't like it, I think he's stuck with it for a year or two. I don't see how he can bring that car back to market and expect to get anywhere near the same money that he paid for it.
Hopefully the car is hopefully the car is a fun car. The guy that bought it wants it and gets it and drives it and does all those things. Yeah. Let us know what you guys think.
That car is killing me for sure.
The car's burnt. Let us know what you guys think of the of this crazy 911. Are we going to see it again? Was that the right number? Should the guy have waited till next spring. Is this car burnt for good? It'd never be able to be sold on a platform again, like my partner thinks? Let us know in the comments below. All right, we made one other prediction on the last episode, and this car I got pretty darn excited about, and I am still excited about. I mean, the results of this one are pretty crazy. Not what I expected, but Michael Deeb, what am I talking about?
You're talking about your partner is so good at this game, dog.
Damn.
This is a 1988 Volkswagen Scirocco Scala 16-valve 5-speed manual. This is a Euro example. There's a dealership in Jacksonville, Florida called something Imports USA, and these guys are bringing in all these great gray market cars, federalizing them, and then selling them off of their showroom floor. I mean, if you look at the pictures of the showroom floor, JP, it looks like it looks like a Volkswagen dealer, you know. Yeah. And they've got all these great Fiats and Lancias and a lot of cool Italian cars. And then they brought in this slightly more modern, definitely a young timer Radwood Scala version of the 16-valve. Really cool car. It's got the cabrio seats. It's got like the Corrado steering wheel. It's got the GTI Snowflake wheels, but it's still got the Euro 127 horsepower 16-valve motor, 5-speed manual, front-wheel drive, the body kit, and looks to be in spectacular condition, showing just 72,000 kilometers, which is just 45,000 miles. This car is in like new condition, and it shows really well. They're not great photos, but the car is evidently exceptionally clean. And so I picked this car for you, JP, and man, this one woke you up. So without further ado, I said $35,000, and I was the low man on this car. You came in at $40,016. Sahan came in at $41,016, and I remember the bids. Yeah, look at the bids here: $39,750, $50. Anthony said $56,500. Ross at $40,000. Kevin at $40,000. Sahan at $41,000. We got Michael at $42,500. That's Buddha. Lee at $42,000. David at $48,000. I mean, there were a lot of high numbers there. So I felt like I was all alone at just $35,000, but spoiler alert, I almost got another Yahtzee. JP, our car was no reserve, and it sold for just $34,500, meaning I missed the Yahtzee by $500. I missed a second Yahtzee by $1,000, and I got a Yahtzee on the other one. Man, I had a pretty good week.
You had a pretty damn good week, yeah.
Yeah, when Wade and Mental are around and it's just you and me, I own your ass. But man, you bring Wenzel and Wade in, and I can't sniff a win. But these three cars, I just, gut feeling. I really didn't. You know what's funny? I didn't look them up. I just guessed from my head because we were late. I was late getting to the show. It's pretty funny how like I cloud my own judgment with data, and if I shoot from the hip, I do a lot better. But John, knowing that you and most of the herd thought this car would easily break $40,000, what do you think held it back from getting there? Again, this was a no reserve auction, and there isn't another one of these in the country. I mean, certainly not in the marketplace. We can't even find any decent Volkswagens from this era. And when they do, they usually set the BiT on fire. So what do you think held this car back from getting into the range that you and the rest of the team thought?
It's from a shithole country. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's not from America. And cars that aren't from, I mean, look, imported cars just don't bring the same money as the cars that were imported originally for the American market. That's not to say that this car isn't every bit as good as one that was here. But I think, this is a collector car, and the people that are collecting these, they want the ones that were, meant for North America. I would have no problem getting this car, buying this car, and owning this car. And if I had been paying attention to the close of this auction, damn, at that money, I'd have been like, get the mouse away from me, because I might own a Scirocco. I might be onto my 7th Scirocco, but or what am I saying? I've probably had at least a dozen Scirocco's over the years, but I haven't had one in like probably 20 years. So, I mean, it's been a long time since I've owned a Scirocco, but I would love to get another one, and this is definitely one that I would like to get. But yeah, I think the bottom line is the fact that it's a Euro. Look, we see the same thing a lot of times with like ROW Porsches. Chef has one of the most beautiful, our friend Chef William from AutoFest, my partner over there. He has one of the nicest black on black 930 turbo Porsches. It's an 86 or maybe it's an 85. Sorry. But that car only has 30 something thousand miles on it. And the ROW ones are better than the North American version ones, you know,
they are.
but they don't, but they just don't bring the same money. Just flat out. They don't bring the same money. Don't know why. But that's just the case. American buyers, when it comes to the collector side, they want the American stuff. Why do you guys think that is? Yeah, what do you think?
Isn't that funny? I mean, it's not like it wasn't built by Porsche, their favorite brand. So
I know, right?
You get the car. Why wouldn't you get the unobtainium? I mean, literally, Chef's car is an actual 930, whereas the year later, when that car came back to this country, Porsche had to market it as a 911 Turbo because it didn't have the same fuel rail and fuel delivery system as the real 930s that were being built for the rest of the world. So they changed the name of it because they wanted to set expectations correctly. So Chef's car is a beast, and he's having a blast with it. But like this car, Chef's car has what Volkswagen and Porsche group denote for the rest of the world cars as a ZZZ VIN. And that certainly gives this car away. And I agree with you, JP. I think you're right on that take, that being a Euro car somehow hurt the value of this. And I see this as an unobtainium car in spectacular condition with no peers in the marketplace ever during a calendar year. To me, this car should have been worth more, but it didn't bring the money, and I guessed it correct. So there you go.
Bob is saying white not really a period color in the U.S. They did make white ones. They're very rare. They are extraordinarily rare, but they did make white ones. I remember Campbell Nelson Volkswagen in Edmonds, Washington. They had the very last two 16 valves in America. They had a red one and they had a white one. And the red one, they were basically holding on to those last two cars because they knew they were the last two 16 valves and they knew the Scirocco's were gone. But they had them into like 1990. They were there for a while, and they had it. And like the Corrado hit the showroom, and they still had those two Scirocco's, but they were saving them to get the most money out of them because they knew people wanted them. And even though they still made Scirocco's in Europe, I think till I want to say 93. Someone out there can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that one. But yeah, they did make white ones. But you're right, Bob. They're pretty darn rare in the 16 valve variant. I think it was basically
again. Scratch the head on why this white one didn't bring more money. You know,
yeah,
I mean, and white interior. It looks
there
really
were
nice.
no weird color ones. They were all, it was white, red, Zermatt silver, or black. That was it. Those were the only four colors you could get. Yeah, so I don't know. All right. Well, so we're getting some more comments here. Kevin likes the video of Chef's 930. Thank you. We should share one of those here. Yeah, if you want to see some of the videos, go watch the video of Chef's car on the Derfossination or the Rami Show channel, and check that out when this show is over. And let's go to a quick commercial break, and we will be right back with brand new predictions coming up right after this. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds.
Get those nerds!
Yeah, get those nerds. All right, we are back with some new predictions. We got new people hanging out in the nerd herd, in the nerd nation. Welcome, Charlie. And Chris is asking if Thomas is hanging out in here. There's a bunch of new people. That's what I love. The nerd herd just keeps growing and growing and growing, getting bigger and bigger. And that's all because of you guys in the nerd herd. I should also, another shout out to our good friend Anthony at Our Smiths. We have a brand new commercial to blah, I can't even speak. We have an Our Smith's commercial to debut on the show. I was trying to get it ready for this episode. Anthony, I swear to God, I'm going to have that up here by the next episode. I did the voiceover and everything, and I plopped it in there, and I didn't time it right, and it didn't sync up. And so I totally screwed up. But hey, we're going to plug Our Smith's anyway, because they are awesome. If you have a Swiss watch, a Rolex, a Timex, a Timex, Anthony, do you work on Timexes? Would you work on a Timex? Or a Swatch or something like that? Is that something? That's not a fine
Swatches?
Swiss
They're
watch.
Swiss?
Is a Swatch
They're
a Swiss
collectible.
watch? I have one of those moon swatches. I got one of those, and it broke. The actual the stupid the case actually snapped off. Like, what the hell, man? What the hell? And they don't want to warranty it because they're like, it's not the... so I have to send it to Our Smith's. If he would work on a cheap piece of crap plastic Swatch, I'll send it up to Anthony because I'm sure he can make it good as new, because that's what he does. He is the single best Swiss watch repair and service provider in the world. I can definitely say that. He is awesome. And they also have a great selection of watches for sale. And he can help you find a watch that you're looking for too. I think we talked about that before the break, but yeah, Our Smith's up there in Idaho. Love you guys up there. Thanks for supporting the show. We want to support them. All right. He says, Anthony's he's like, nope, he's not going to work on a Timex, not going to work on a plastic watch. Keep that shish. Don't send that to Anthony. Only send him the fine stuff. All right. So let's,
the value of Our Smith's in my mind just went up 100-fold.
Damn straight.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony.
We will put links to. We'll start putting links to Our Smith's and Godden Porsche in the description below. So I will do that after we are done being live. So he said he can't work on Swatch. It's non-serviceable. Yeah, that's what Swatch. Like when I went to Swatch to like bring it back, they're looking at me like I was the biggest a-hole for bringing this watch. It broke, man. I've never had a watch. It's like, what? I didn't use it as a carabiner. I wasn't like hanging, like hiking on a mountain trying to pull my weight on it. The band came off.
Let me give you some context. You know how H&R is considered throwaway clothing? A Swatch is a throwaway watch. You wear it until it stops working, and then you throw it in the effing garbage.
Yeah, I had it for 3 weeks, and I wore it three times, and it broke. And it's
Consider yourself lucky.
Normal Swatches are what, like $100, $50, $30? I don't know. The moon thing is like 4 or 5 times that. So I don't know. Whatever. They screwed me. They got me. I don't know. I'm gonna just keep calling the customer service just to get my money back in customer service time, because that costs them like $25 an hour to have some jerk talk to you on the phone.
Oh my God!
Just so ticked off at Swatch. Come on, guys. They put Omega on it, for crying out loud. All right. That's why I should just keep wearing nice watches instead of Swatches. Hant says Swatches are disposable, right, Anthony? And how about an Apple Watch? Yeah, I just can't get into the Apple Watch thing. I don't know. See, we need to start a whole watch show. All right, let's get to what's that? Anthony says he's just gonna send me his moon swatch. Now, dude, it'll just break. Thanks, I appreciate that, buddy. I'm done. I'm done with the swatch. All right, let's get to some new predictions. What do we got, Michael Deeb? It's the first car on the list.
You're so good. You're so getting a Swatch for Christmas. Okay. We found a 1993 Porsche 911 Carrera 4 30th anniversary Jubilee edition on Bring a Trailer this week. This car is located in Santa Barbara, California, was imported, showing 35,000 kilometers, which equates to just 22,000 miles. This is a car or a model that was never brought to North America. So this is unobtainium on our shores, and a really cool car that only just a couple of years ago became eligible for the importation on the 25-year exemption into most of the lower 48 in the United States. So cars like this are starting to show up more and more, and this particular one looks to be outstanding. While you could have gotten this car in just about any color, the majority of the 911 that Porsche built for the rest of the world came in this really cool viola metallic paint with what they call a Rubicon gray draped leather upholstery. The Rubicon gray has like almost a gray lavender look to it. And so JP, when you get to one of the interior shots, stop so we can take a gander at that beautiful gray leather. It's not for everybody. Most people probably don't like it, but matched with this colorway and knowing that this is a special edition, and how cool these cars are, it doesn't offend me the way it does gray interiors do on a lot of other Porsches. I would be totally fine with this car with the full Rubicon gray leather interior. It doesn't bother me. These photos aren't very good, but yeah, you can kind of get a sense that there is just a little couple of drops of purple in the dye that they used for the upholstery. So when they went to dye it gray, they dropped some purple in there as well. Super cool cars, numbered to 911. This one is number 540. These cars were basically to celebrate Porsche's 30th anniversary of the 911. And they did so by making these wide body, normally aspirated, no wing, all-wheel drive Carreras, base Carreras. And like I said, most of these cars were Viola. There's a heavy handful that are amethyst metallic, which look pretty good, especially when they couple the amethyst with like a black leather interior. That'd be a really cool way to get a Jubilee. They brought a car similar to this in 1994, but they weren't called Jubilees. But they brought this package, and you could order them in any color in 1994, and they made about, I think, 265 of those for the U.S. market. But to get one of the numbered cars, you have to go across the pond and import one yourself. Somebody brought this one over already. It is, I believe, on a Montana title in the name of the Sellers LLC. But here you go. The car we could never get, the 30th anniversary. Now, John, before we go any further, let me just take one last moment of calm and peace and enjoy the photos of this car, because I know how much you hate special editions and you think they're over-bloated and overpriced. And now go ahead and poop all over this car.
Who's pooping? There's no pooping. I'm not pooping. I like this car. It's a nice car. I don't ever think that the extra money is worth it unless it's got, unless it's something, unless it's got like performance upgrades. I think it's all a much ado about nothing. But this is a beautiful car. It is a beautiful color. I'm not a big fan of that interior color, but it's fine. I wouldn't turn this car away. I would way rather have just a black on black one or something like that. And I know that I'm not in. I know that most Porsche people disagree with me on that, and that's fine. That's good, because the good thing about liking stuff that not everybody else likes as much is that I can get what I want cheaper. So I am fine with someone paying way too much for this car because I'll just wait for one that's not so incredibly overpriced. So what's this thing going to bring?
So, JP, I'm glad you're sitting down. With 2 days left before the sale ends, before the auction closes, our car is already up to $220,000 on a pretty respectable, I gotta scroll. 17 bids. Gosh, look, a handful of Jubilees have come onto the platform this year. I don't think we saw a handful the previous couple of years combined. So there are a few of these cars in the United States, but this might be one of the lowest miles. And they've got paint meter readings. It looks like it's in all spectacular condition. It's all original paint. Seems to have very good documentation. This might be the nicest one in the country. And so I'm going to tell you that this, I think, is kind of 964s are strong. This is a blue chip 964. JP, I'm all in on this car. I'm not even going to hesitate. I'm going to go $285,000 where this car will sell.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those cars that I think is subject to the current, call it a correction, I guess, or whatever, because I think a year ago this car would easily have been, you could get to 300 with something like this. But I don't think that's going to happen. Will it even go as high as you're saying? I think it's taller. How many miles does this thing have on it again?
Let me read it to you because it just clicked off. It's 22,000 miles, which is 35,000 kilometers. 22,000 miles. That's
22,000 miles. That's pretty low. Yeah. And you're saying 285. I'll park it under you, not far though. Cause we've seen lesser ones go in the mid twos to, $250,000 or whatever. And I think that generally, if they have normal miles, they're having a hard time even breaking 200 anymore. But this one being special and all that stuff, I'm just going to go 250, 964. And say that, you know what? I'm excited to see some disagreement here in the nerd herd. People are going big. They're saying over 300. They're going, boom. Anthony thinks 300 grand is where it's at.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Somebody understands.
Bob's at 301. Buddha's parking it right under. He's right under you at 293. Anthony's saying 22 grand. What is that about? I think he's talking about something else. 22,000 miles. He's answering my question. Sorry, I'm a little slow to the take there. So yeah, I don't know. This is a really freaking cool car. Huh?
Anthony's hosting the show from the comments. You know?
Yeah, right. Just have him come on here and just do this for me. Yeah, I think it's gonna. Yeah, I guess. I kind of go back to the car that, the last car that we were talking about that was kind of held, that Scirocco that was an import car. This is also an import car. So I think it's going to be hard for it to get into that 300 range. I mean, look, we have friends that have imported 993 RSs and roofs and stuff like that. And those cars, because they're imported from other countries, are worth less than the ones that were dedicated to being here. But I don't know. All right. Well, the nerd herd is speaking. Chris thinks it's 299,964. So Hans thinks it's 311. Wow, he's going big time. Randy's there with me. All right, I feel good. Randy's usually pretty good at this. Randy's at 255. So he must be right on this one. Vampire Bear 13. Look, the nerd herd is just getting bigger. We've got a new nerd herd member, Ann. Welcome, Ann, to the nerd herd. That's awesome to see her joining us. And it's crazy people will pay an extra $100,000 for a special color. Damn straight, Vampire. That's just so dumb to me. I do not get it.
That's Porsche.
That's the Porsche. It's so Porsche. Yeah, it's true. Ross in New Zealand thinks 275 seems reasonable, and Anne is coming in. She's in the over 300 club at 306. All right. Well, come back on Wednesday and we'll find out how much this car actually closes for, or if it even closes at all. This thing might fail to sell. Who knows? The person that owns it, what do you think the reserve is on something like this? Do you think they're reasonable?
Well, I think the reserve is close to your number. I bet the reserve is around 250 grand. And I think that the guy who brings it to market is confident that this, or at least in his mind, thinks it's a $300,000 car. I will agree with the first thing you started off with was a year ago. I think this car could have gotten into the $300,000 range. But by selling it now, especially right around the holidays, it's a little tough for such a blue chip car. Again, it's such a rare occasion to be able to acquire one. I do think that the money will come to this car, which is why I'm over your number and where I'm at 285. But yeah, I think if the reserve is 275, there's a chance this car could fail to sell. But I think it'll get there. It's just the nicest one, and it's such a great car.
Well, we know BAT is pretty on top of reserves these days. They had a moment there where I think there was a big shift in the market. It happened fairly quick, and I think BAT and all the platforms have adjusted pretty well. Except for maybe our boys at, I don't know, PCAR Market. I think they're still pretty darn aggressive in the sense that they are not lowering the reserves. They're letting reserves do whatever the heck the seller wants. But we have an example of a car coming up here on PCAR Market from a very good seller, someone that we know knows his stuff and someone that we know isn't going to ask a ridiculous reserve. And I'm excited about this next car. And I swear I won't shoot it with a shotgun. Introduce the next car, please, Michael Deeb.
All right, on PCAR Market is Chris Carbines of Carbine Motor Cars in New Orleans, Louisiana, has a 9,000-mile example of this 2005 Porsche 996 GT3. Now, truth be told, this car ran in July on Bring a Trailer, where it was bid to $136,000, where it narrowly missed meeting reserve back then. What was interesting was that they had taken some photos from underneath the car on a lift at Carbine Motor Cars, and they didn't really examine the photos themselves. But as people have their computers and they can blow up photos to extraordinary measurements and everything's high definition, they noticed just ever so slightly that there was just the slightest weep from the rear main seal, and they blew it up in the comments. And that's what sort of held it back from crossing that 140 and getting on up into that $150,000 range, which is where you would expect an 8,000 mile spectacular example of a 2005. Most of these are 04s, by the way. So having an 05 means it's one of by the numbers, it's one of a handful for the model year. 996 GT3, which are strong cars. A little bit like the E46. 996 GT3s are pretty strong. So the car failed to sell. The consignor agreed to have the rear main seal, and ultimately the flywheel were changed while they were in there. And then they put a new front lower lip spoiler on, which was not on the car when the photos were taken as it went to BAT. So they put a brand new rubber lower lip spoiler on the front, reshot the car, and now the car is brought back to market, this time on PCAR Market's platform. So PCAR Market says it is marketing as a 9,000 mile example, but the true mileage is just 8,240. So I don't understand why PCAR Market is doing that as a 9,000 mile car. They should just write the miles on there. But anyways, who knows why PCAR Market does anything. Chris Carbine is a fantastic seller, very honest person. I actually personally have met the owner, the consignor of this car, who is a close personal friend of Chris Carbine's. He is a great guy. He is a hardcore Porsche dude. Carbine and this consignor and a handful of their friends all took a trip this fall and went to Germany, and they went to Roof and Alpina and early 911S, and they went to the Nürburgring and they ate bratwurst and drank beer. I mean, these are just, JP, if you and I had that kind of money, we would be doing the same sort of things. And maybe when we get to be their age, we might do the same things if we're lucky and if we live that long. But you couldn't hope to get a car from a nicer owner or a nicer dealership. So I present to you, JP, Chris Carbine's friends 996 GT3 and 05, super low miles, brand new flywheel and rear main seal, brand new front lower lip spoiler. This car is spectacular. John, if I could have gotten off of my turbo look, apples to apples, I would have just put that money right back into this car and called it a day. I would have sat on this car for years. I would love to own one of these. There might not be a nicer one out there. The leather on the driver's seat is almost free of creases. It's got some cocoa mats. I know silver is kind of a hum color, but damn, this thing looks really, really good. I actually think too, John, I might have forgotten to say it. I think they updated. No, take a look at that PCM. Is that the standard PCM, or do they upgrade to that classic radio? I forget now.
I know. Flipping through here. Oh yeah, that looks like. Well, no. Is that an aftermarket one? I'm trying to get to.
No,
it.
that's
Chris. What stereo is that? That's not the new Porsche stereo, is it?
Is that? Yeah.
It's a double
Bluetooth.
DIN stereo. But,
yeah, it says Bluetooth. Would that have Bluetooth 06? Yeah, I guess it would.
I mean, there is the new Porsche. It looks like it's got the sticker
the PCM
on there.
one.
The new one.
But it would say but it would
Porsche Classic,
it would say
right?
CarPlay. Yeah, and it would say Classic on it. So I don't think that's a new one. But I don't know. I could be wrong. But anyway, the car closes, JP, in 2 days. So it closes 2 days from now. Talk to me about your experience with 996s. I know you had that car that's in the commercial that you loved. I was actually surprised you turned that car so quickly because it seemed like such a beautiful vocation of a 996 GT3. Have you driven a real GT3 from the 996 variety with that smaller 3.6 motor?
They are hands down my favorite. Well, I don't know about hands down, but 996 GT3 is probably my favorite modern Porsche. I think if I had my choice, I would certainly choose one over any 991 GT3 variant. It would be a difficult choice to go 996 GT3 versus 997 GT3. That would be, gosh dang, that would just kind of, I think at that point it would come down to color and price and stuff like that. But all things being equal, I might still lean towards the 996 GT3. It's a bummer that that the first listing kind of got, didn't make it to reserve. And when you discover stuff like that in the photos, that there's a minor leak, this era of Porsche and all these modern Porsches. I mean, the thing is, especially 996s and 997s, the 996 was still kind of a new platform. This is the very end of that, of this model line. But a lot of these cars, when they don't get driven, things like rear main seals leak. I mean, that's just how it goes. And so that's one of the downsides of buying something like this. That's, that's modern, but it's still almost 20 years old, and it doesn't have very many miles. So a lot of the maintenance that would have been covered, a lot of these things that were kind of design flaws that would have been dealt with by the factory under warranty, they wind up. These are normal kind of wear and tear maintenance costs that wind up getting passed on to the new owners in the future when they get up to that 30, 40, 50,000 mile range. So whatever, this car is so spectacular, and it does have the Metzger engine, so no IMS to worry about. This is not the kind of engine that's going to explode into a gajillion pieces inside and ruin your investment, unlike regular 996s and 997s, the first generation. So you're pretty safe in that regard. But you're still if you do get this car, know that there is going to be some maintenance costs in the future. That said, it's just it's one of the most glorious cars to drive. I remember when this car was, it was probably 2007, 2008. So the 997 had been out for a little while, and I had a 996 C4S, and I took it to the dealership for some service work, and they had they had basically this exact car, GT3 in the 996 variant. And since I had some time at the dealership, I talked to the salesperson. I was waiting for my car to get serviced, and they're like, yeah, let's go for a drive. And I remember driving the thing just going, oh my God, I didn't realize that was my first GT3 experience. I had no idea just how much better it was than the other cars. And again, I came right out of a C4S that had a bunch of cool mods and everything like that. So it had a bunch of extra performance, but to go from that car into a GT3 996 was like, oh my God, I just can't believe how good this is. And ever since then, I've been pining for one. But I remember basically talking to the salesperson going, God, can I trade in? He's like, yeah, we'll give you like 40 for your C4S. And the GT3 was $60,000. It was like 20 grand more. I was like, oh, that's way too much. I can't, for a 996, that's nuts. And now it's just like, holy cow. Yeah, I would. And that's the thing. That's the problem is that, up until pre-COVID, call it 2020, these were still kind of in that $50,000, $60,000 range. And then once everything took off in that 2021 range time, they started getting over 100. We're going, oh my gosh, 120. Oh my God. Now 120, 130, 140 is that's kind of the norm for this car, and it's awesome for the car, but it still presents a great bang for the buck. But sadly for me, it probably prices me out at that point. All that said, what do we think this is going to bring, Michael Deeb?
Can you believe the 3-4 years I was at Godden, we never had a 996 GT3. I still haven't driven this car.
Wow.
I've never driven one. We had a 996 GT2 for over a year that I drove and took to fairs and festivals and had a blast driving that car, and that car was amazing. But I've never driven this, and I love that you like it. It's one of your favorites. Paul Kramer, who's been on the show a handful of times, swears that this is his favorite modern 911 as well. So without further ado, and again, with 2 days before it closes, our car is sitting at $75,000 on 10 bids. This car stands up. I think it's going to do well despite the platform. You also have a reputable and experienced seller that the consignor has trusted to bring the car to market. And with that in mind, JP, I think the car should bring what it's worth, which is $145,000.
Yeah, I think this car has a good chance at breaking the number that it got on BaT. Even when back then things were a little bit better place in the market, and it wasn't in the middle of the winter or right at the beginning of winter, really. Could this car get 145? I think it's worth it. I think it should. I think PCAR Market sometimes brings that, sometimes doesn't. It's hit and miss with PCAR Market. I think if Chris had hired me to make a film about the car, it would definitely get 145, maybe 200. Wink, wink. But I'm going to come in under. I'm going to go 135,996 and hope you're right, Michael Deeb.
Yeah, so they did such a great job, JP. I don't want to shortcut this. Paint meter readings, no over revs with a DME report, no time in any of the three ranges, and not a single over rev in any of the three ranges. I mean, this car has been lovingly cared for. And then, like I said, they did the flywheel and the rear main seal, and then provided receipts in the copy so that people can see all the work that was documented. So I think this car is going to do well. John, give me your bid again. 130.
I think it was 135,996. Yeah, I mean, look, Chris did all that extra work too. He did the RMS and the flywheel, and I mean, all those things just add up to basically the perfect car. And if someone can get it in an off-season discount, hey, good for them. But I hope it brings all the money for Chris. And I think that even if someone does pay a premium, that's fine. This is a super low-mile car with all the maintenance. Go get this car, get in it, and start ripping it, man. I'm super jealous of whoever winds up with this car, unless they happen to be the type of person that buys this car just as a collector car, and they don't drive it, in which case their life is their punishment and they are a bad person. So there it is. Okay, well, good. Let's move on to the last car. What do we got?
Yeah. So our friend Sahand selected for us this modified 1987 Mercedes-Benz 560 SEC that is on Bring a Trailer out of Los Angeles, California. The car is showing 81,000 miles. But all the work that was done here was to recreate an AMG style wide body kit. AMG was making cars on their own, selling cars on their own that were Mercedes that were treated to a variety of cosmetic and mechanical and suspension upgrades. And they were sold as AMG models through AMG. This is prior to Mercedes-Benz buying AMG. But this car was born a traditional Mercedes-Benz 560 SEC, and then later in its life, somebody fitted it with this incredible AMG-style bodywork and AMG branded wheels. So it says style. It might not even be real AMG fender flares, which is mind-boggling when we talk about the numbers on this car. Underneath is a stock 560 SEC as far as the powertrain is concerned, but a lot of money was spent on the wheels and tires and the suspension. So, and then the seats themselves are Recaros, electronic Recaro seats. JP, when you get to the seats, the steering wheel is also a special Momo, a period correct Momo wheel that adorned AMG cars in period. So this is a stock 560 SEC that has an AMG style body kit. And then it has a small sampling of AMG panels like the lower front spoiler, the wheels, and the steering wheel. And it's got some beautiful Recaro seats. 80,000 miles, nice car, a boatload of receipts. But I really want to just jump ahead to the numbers. I can't believe this. To me, this car is already sitting at the number I think it should sell for. So I have no idea what's going on here or why people are giving this car so much love. Don't get me wrong. It's very cool. It looks fantastic. It's well done. It's got the demon drop, JP. I'm sure you appreciate that stance. And I love that it's a real coupe. 2 doors, 4 windows, no bar, no B pillar. So I've always liked the car. I've ridden in one, but I've never really driven one as an adult. Yeah, airlift performance, air suspension. It's mind-boggling that this car is bringing the kind of money that it is. But tie rod, steering damper, steering drag length, idler, and bushings. So they did a lot to take the slack out of it and lower it and give it that stance. But I'm shocked that with a stock motor and not having even real AMG bodywork, this car is going to bring the kind of money that it already is at. So it closes in a day, JP. What do you think of the car that Sahand brought? Sahand, I want to remind you, this car is slow, like really slow. This is not a fast car. It will get going fast, but it's not quick. This car will not startle anybody with its power. It's probably feels like a Toyota Corolla at best.
This thing to me reminds me of an RWB for Mercedes. It looks the business, but RWBs, all it is a bunch of fender flares and some cool wheels and some airbags or whatever. And 90% of RWBs don't have the engine to back up the look of this menacing, crazy race car. A 560 SEC is a dog. That is a slow ass, heavy pig. And this car with all the extra stuff in it does not look like there's been a bit of lightning happening on this car. It's all adding weight. Those seats with all the powers, motors and all that kind of stuff, that's only going to make it worse. So maybe we're missing something. Maybe Buddha said that he was watching the build on YouTube, and maybe they did something to this powertrain that opens it up. I know that 560 SEC and all those all the Mercedes of kind of that era were just plagued with tons and tons and tons of smog piping and tubes and vacuum lines that just sucked power out of that powertrain. If there was a way to go through and massage that and remove it all, kind of like taking a 911, like a 993 engine or whatever, and putting ITBs on it or something like that, getting rid of all the stupid stuff and a different fuel system, you can get a lot more power out of them. But I mean, I can't imagine how complex that would be and horribly difficult it would be to do to the powertrain on this car. It looks super cool. Yes, I want to drive down the Vegas Strip at night in this car with those windows down with no B-pillar, just like you said. It just looks great. So it doesn't really need to be fast, but I just don't understand why anyone would pay all that money to not. And it's surprising from Sahan because he's all about, everything being crazy fast.
Yeah.
So
Sahan is more go than show, and this car is more show than go. So surprising.
And you start putting the AMG badges on it, and you expect it to have poop, just like RWBs. It's like an RWB 993 with all the crap all over it. It's like 993s are underpowered, guys. Sorry, they are. You add all this ish to it, it slows it down. You're not helping the car; you're making it worse. So I don't get this thing. What do you think it's going to bring?
JP, our car is at $58,000 already, and I got that. To me, doesn't make any sense. To me, this is with the fake AMG stuff. This is a $40,000 car at best. It's an 80,000 mile 560 SEC, which excellent condition would be 50 grand. This one's got a bunch of garbage on it, and it's already at 58,000. So I don't know where this madness is going to stop, but I have to go over because I don't think it's done. So I'm going to give you $65,000, and that's just me reading the tea leaves. I don't believe the car is worth that, but I suspect it will bring that or more. Unless it just miraculously peters out at 60 grand tomorrow, but I just don't think that's going to happen. So 65 grand, and that's a head scratcher, and it hasn't even happened yet. So
how many bids are there yet?
Let me read it to you while you discuss what you think it's worth. 23 bids. It's getting action.
It's getting action. That's just crazy to me. I don't get this one. This is the one that we need our friend from Mercedes Marketplace or Mercedes Market, to kind of give us the 411. Someone needs to school us on this because I'm with you, Deeb. I have no idea what's up. Again, I agree with you, Kevin. It's a bitchin' looking car. Totally awesome. But how is it worth this much? Randy thinks it's going to be 62,560. I mean, BAT never peters out. It's always like the day before. Like it's usually the next day it goes to the roof. But your number 65. I'm going to park it under you, Deeb. I'm thinking this is going to be one of those rare occasions where it's going to this might be the last bid, or maybe there's another bid tomorrow. This is all the money. I don't know. So I'm going to go 63,560 and. I have no idea what to think on this one. The Nerd Herd, so far the Nerd Herd's saying 60s. No one's saying that it's going to be 80, 90 or anything like that, which would be really weird for a second day, for the last day on a BAT auction. So this is a head scratcher.
With 80,000 miles modified, this car is bringing more money than a car with a quarter of the miles all stock, and with a Mercedes-Benz, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. When you
had your 190 Cosworth, you were bitching about, I gotta take the coilovers off because they don't like the coilovers on. It's gotta have the air ride, blah blah blah. And I guess you're right, but and that was a performance upgrade, and you had the original equipment in a box. You would think that any enthusiast would be like, I'm keeping it with the upgrade. I still have the original stuff. Fantastic. Good to go. But Hans said it's 49 grand. Dude, bro, it's already at 59, so it can't go backwards. So he's adjusting his bid to 62. Okay. If ever there were a chance for a auction to go backwards, I think this is the one. But I don't know, maybe the ghost of Patrick Swayze has captured everyone and is Roadhouse. Like bringing this is if they remade Roadhouse, if they like remade the movie, rebooted it as they do in Hollywood, right? They would have to get this version of the 560 instead of the one he actually had in the real movie. Chris is the only one that's coming up with a big number. He's saying 74 or 560. I should have gone with you, Chris. Oh, and Kevin's going nuts. 137,996. Where are you at? I think I think Kevin just popped in on the 996. I think he's coming in a little late there.
Yeah.
Chris thinks this is going to shock the nerd herd, and I got to go with him. You're probably right,
I'm already
Chris.
shocked.
What's going on?
It doesn't have real AMG bodywork. It doesn't have a built motor, and it didn't come from AMG. If this were a real AMG car, sure, it'd be worth over $100,000, but barely. I don't know.
I don't know. Kevin's having more fun than all of us because he's obviously drinking scotch and a cigar or something like that, and he's not even bidding on the car that we're talking about here.
Is Sahan watching tonight? What's his bid?
Sahan popped in for a second, but he's not. So I think he had something going on tonight.
I wish he would have. Well, when we announce the results, he'll have to give us his.
Maybe he'll come in for the next episode and tell us what he saw on this thing that we didn't. But anyways, that's the show for the evening. Thanks for hanging out on a Wednesday night, guys. We'll be back Sunday night. With a brand new live Nerd Herd. Nerd Herd, keep doing the work, guys. You are rocking it. You're bringing more people to the herd, and it's making it even more fun. I believe, let's see here, it looks like Mental will be back on Sunday, and probably Wade will be back as well. So we'll get the whole crew back together, and we will have a new episode for you Sunday. And if you're having a hard time keeping track of the time because your watch needs service, again, reach out to our friends at Our Smiths, and they will help you get your watch checked and serviced so that you can be ready and know exactly what time it is to watch the Nerds live at 6:30. We might move it up. So look on the Instagram. We might move it up to like 6:30 on the next one. We want to make it a little easier for you guys on the East Coast to join us live. We do appreciate you guys staying up this late to hang out with us. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Oh, look at that. Ross Churchhouse is going, hell yeah. Roadhouse, $67,000, right? Heck yeah. You guys have a great rest of the week. We will see you on Sunday. Michael Deeb, if you have a car and you want to try selling it, Michael Deeb, plug your ish. This is your time.
Absolutely. Reach out to me in a direct message and I can help you sell your car on Haggerty Marketplace online. Unlike the other dating services that masquerade as car auction platforms, we actually escrow the money. We hold title and create the safest environment for you to buy or sell a classic car online. So reach out to me and I can help you sell that car, represent it for you, and get you the most money. Thank you.
Ross says he just watched Churchhouse. Ross Churchhouse said he just watched Roadhouse. Churchhouse watching Roadhouse with his wife. That's going to be a little awkward because there's that whole scene with the hot doctor chick and they get all busy and stuff like that. That's just weird watching stuff like that with their wife. I don't know if I could do that. My wife hates that chick, that character in Roadhouse. She hates her. She's like...
Janet Jones, right?
Is that her name? I don't know what her name was.
I think she married. I think that's the girl that married Wayne Gretzky, but I might be wrong on that. We'll talk about it next show.
I don't know. All I know is my wife just wants to kill that bitch every time that show comes on. She's just screw her, whatever. She doesn't appreciate Patrick Swayze apparently. Thanks, Ann, for joining the Nerd Herd. Yeah, we're ending the show. This is done. See you guys.
Get those nerds!